Welcome to another episode of Challenging the Norm. His and hers look at life and business with your hosts, Paul Snell and myself, Lindsay Burden. The podcast for solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, and business owners that want to experience success in their own way. Wrestling with the topics that matter and reality checking the latest trends in business. Paul works with business owners, showing them how they can take the stress out of transforming teams into performance powerhouses that love what they do, while I offer business coaching that empowers ambitious women in business to create financial abundance and a time-rich lifestyle without sacrificing their joy.
Well, morning, Lindsay. It's another episode of our podcast. Can't wait. We've had our the preamble that we go through before we press record. Honestly, we really do need to record those because often the insights, they just come flowing at that point. But look, morning, Lindsay. I know you're feeling a bit under the weather. So if anyone wonders why Lindsay sounds like some husky 1970s rock singer, that's because Lindsay's a little bit under the weather today. But we do have a fantastic topic, don't we, Lindsay?
We certainly do. And I did wonder what you were going to say then about my husky voice. Yes, I have got a husky voice, but do you know what? I love recording these episodes so much that there wasn't a chance that I was going to say, no, can we postpone? But also, I'm so happy that we came together today. And what's really interesting is we've both written a few notes, and that's quite unusual because we usually write the notes as we do our preamble, but we both came armed with notes to answer the question, would you do things differently if you started again?
Yes, and just the fact that I've got notes is incredible because rarely do I have them. I know you diligently make notes, and when we have our preamble, you're making all the notes, and I sit here with a sense of relief that I don't make the notes and you do. And yet here we are. I've made notes today. So how about that as a breakthrough on the first few minutes of the podcast?
It is. We've made notes. Whatever next. So we wanted to ponder this question, and we've come at it from completely different angles or perspectives, which is what I really, really love. But when you were reading off your list, I was going, oh, yeah, that kind of applies here and that kind of. So I've come at it maybe from a really practical point of view, and you're coming with the wisdom. And yet they link and they do come together, don't they?
They do. And no real surprise, but just like we say for the name of our podcast series, and it's his and hers view, right? So we have different views, but invariably they sort of come together. And if you look at these things that we'll go through and try and answer that question, and answering that question, we can only do from experience. That's certainly my view of that. I think it's very difficult to say collect data externally because it's what matters to you. And so when I try and answer that question, what would I do differently? I think I've come at it from a place of how could I make it more effective and productive from that first day? So doing differently, not so sure that's what I'm looking at. What I'm looking at is what could I say if we were talking to someone who's decided they want to go into business, what would I say? How could I help them with views and comments? That's sort of where I've come at it from, Lindsay.
Yeah, and I think also there's something because really important to me. So I wrote some very practical things that I would do differently in my business. But the challenge around that is if I had done those things, I wouldn't be sat here today.
Yes.
It would look different. And I think that kind of gave me a bit of a challenge when I was thinking about it. But would you like me to share a couple of things?
Yeah, you go for it first. Go on.
Okay, so on my list, I first of all wrote CRM. So 11 years in, and I would say only in the last 18 months have I found a CRM system that really works for me. Now, that doesn't mean I didn't have one at the beginning, and I was kind of keeping notes and maybe used an Excel spreadsheet, but I couldn't see the relevance or the importance to my business. And I think that, again, goes back to the journey, we don't often recognize or see the relevance of something until later on. But if I could start again, I would absolutely find myself a CRM. And if anyone's going, oh, Lindsay, there's just hundreds of them out there. I know. Just pick one, make it simple. At the very least, keep a name, address, email, and keep notes of the conversations you've had, because that has made such a difference in my business, just being able to go back to those conversations. So I had CRM on my list. And the other thing I had was marketing, and I had email separately and building a list. And list building is so important to our businesses, because I don't know if you noticed, but apparently, Paul, recently, Facebook went down. Now, I'm going to be really honest, I didn't notice at all. Who knew? I said, what's everyone going on about? But that's why we don't have ownership of any data on those social media platforms. And then when I was reading out my list, so that's sort of email and marketing. And for me, email was building my list. Marketing was, don't use the spaghetti approach. Please don't throw everything at it and hope something will stick. Then you read your list out, and there are a couple of things on there that really apply to that.
Yep. And I'll share some of those. I am going to do something really basic at this point and just say, CRM, what does that mean?
Oh, it's one of those things, isn't it? Isn't it customer relationship management?
Yes. And honestly, you make a very good point. The reason I'm being a little bit facetious with that is I know there are people that look at me blankly when I talk about CRM. And honestly, in its most useful form, it's somewhere to stick all the notes and stuff and activity that you do with a client. And as you mentioned before we started, Lindsay, it's okay having a spreadsheet, but it's untidy. It's a bit wieldy. It's just not a great place when you can have a CRM at no cost.
Yeah, I know.
Right? How good is that? And really, I mean, I've got mine. Really, really recommend. There are many. I'm going to tell you, mine's HubSpot, just because that's what I
Who's
love.
mine? Snap.
Yeah, and it suits me down to the ground, and I don't over-engineer or overthink it. But if anytime anybody is talking to me about something they want, or a program they want to do, or I'm talking to them, it's straight on there. It's easy. So sorry, wanted to clear that one up, Lindsay, just in case we have people asking that question about CRM. Now,
If you go to your list, you've said something really important there. And it's not, I don't think it's on either of our lists, but you said don't over engineer it.
yes.
Don't overthink it. And I really do think that don't over engineer and don't overthink anything in business. That wasn't even on our list, but I was like, I need to write that down, because that's really important, because I think we're really good at overcomplicating things, and then we make it difficult for ourselves and we make it difficult for our clients.
Yeah, and I think it sort of touches on one of mine when I talk about activity doesn't necessarily mean growth, right? And what I mean by that is, we can become really busy working on our business and forget that we've actually got to do some work in it to generate some income. And the classic for me, and look, when I started, there wasn't websites to worry about, let me tell you, particularly. Now websites can become all-consuming, right? There are ways to do websites on services like Wix and all these others, where you can sit there and literally spend all day down a rabbit warren of typing your website, make it look pretty, lots of functionality, looking wonderful, and yet none of that in the short term is going to get you any business.
No.
And so I'm being a little provocative with that, because some people go, yeah, but I need a website. I know, but my question for you is, what is the best activity you need to do today to move your business forward? And if that is not a website, because you've got other function to do, such as marketing or some form of proactive marketing, or even deciding who you're going to sell your stuff to, a website isn't going to fix that for you today, and it won't move you forward until you answer those fundamental questions. So I just want to be clear on that, because I've seen it and I've experienced in loads of ways. More recently, I ended up going down rabbit warren of stuff around an online training facility that I'm sitting there going, how many hours have I done? It's been like watching TikTok. It's crazy. So there's one. Let's look at some others, Lindsay. I've got down every business is a people business.
It is. Who knew?
And it's so easy to forget, particularly if you're building or wanting to go into a business where you've got online sales function or fulfillment style business, and you think all you need is a really good website and your world is sorted. And I can't help but tell you, it doesn't matter what you sell, how you do it, who you're selling it to, there are people involved. And so being prepared to interact with people, and I know this sounds crazy to so many people listening or watching this, but I've come across way too many people who just assume that having an online presence to sell something on a website is all they'll ever need to do, and they won't need to speak to a person.